I love me Bitcoin going down 6%. Cardano going down 8%.
Let me know. Oh, it's right at the top. Go back. I'm sorry. One is sorry. Why was I speaking into my headphones? That's idiotic. Hey, welcome everyone to the Mere Mortals live stream. This is going to be our regular time from now on.
Sup?
Let's... Okay, that sounds better. Oh man, we're way early.
I'll
Well,
see if we get a couple of people coming in.
yeah, we'll
God damn.
posted that. Let's see if I can get my brother in. Let's start doing some social media posts.
Just put it on Twitter.
So now, yeah, just about to.
I'll do it on mine too.
Yep. All right, those are done. Got this here. Put that there. Put this here. Okay. Looking pretty good. Did you want to, while we're waiting, discuss any of those things? Any of those things discussable in front of the
Which
public
things?
audience? The things we needed to chat about.
Probably the one was the slides. But I also haven't seen Lucas send us an email either. So I also haven't, there's a few things that I would want to follow up.
Hasn't?
He hasn't, not that I've seen anyways.
Okay, yeah. Well, I honestly don't want to be presenting too soon because I haven't got
Yeah, well, I was
practiced anything.
He said he wanted to do one for the Ethereum merge. So I was like, well, the Ethereum merge is next week.
Yeah.
So I was like, damn, how quickly do you want to turn around? So I think it's going to be
Wait.
post-mortem, post-mortem couple of weeks after the Ethereum merge.
Wait, he wanted us to do something for that?
No, he wanted to do one about the Ethereum merge.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And so then we would be a part of that as well. I'm not talking about the Ethereum,
Oh,
Ethereum
okay,
merge.
really?
I'm talking about our own thing.
Oh, that seems not related.
Well, you know how sometimes they have differing ones. Although it could bring a different crowd, right? It could bring the crowd of those from that perspective, Lightning Network perspective. So actually I was talking, I didn't talk to Jeff, but I know that he has a conversation somewhere else and I wanted to talk to him about it. He used Lightning payments back in 2017 or something like that. I was like, damn, what was he
2017, jeez.
Yeah.
That would have been rough. That would not have been fun.
Yeah, I was like, and so Jeff's been in it since 2013. So he learned it from a Reddit post, which was teach me like I'm 5 or something like that, explaining to me like I'm 5.
Okay.
And that's where he found the the idea of Bitcoin, I guess. So I was like, oh, interesting. What was the other thing? So there was the slides. Oh, that's actually one thing that I hadn't
Can bring it up.
talked to you about it. Was I went on Wix the other day to have a look at the information.
Yeah.
And there's all these people who have sent through comments, and I think 21 people have subscribed
To what?
to the website.
How do you subscribe?
Because you can. I think there must still be an option somewhere on our website where you can subscribe for where the posts are coming from or the articles.
Okay.
And there's 21 people subscribed to it.
Okay.
So we got all their details in that in the back end.
Oh, really?
I was like, damn, we're not using this at all.
Do they look like dodgy bots or anything, or are they?
I'd say 25% look dodgy.
Yeah.
Some of the others don't.
Okay. Well, actually, man, dang. Now that you bring up of us being slack and responding, I never did get back to those people who sent that thing through about the book. So
damn.
I really should do that. Yeah, that's actually quite bad on my part. I feel awful.
It's literally the worst thing you could probably do.
I feel awful.
You should absolutely. And I will show you this one actually because as part of that.
Man, I don't think I'll ever bother to fix this Rubik's Cube again.
I wouldn't do. I would not be investing any more of my time to try to do that again. It took me so long to just get to a particular level with it. Oh my god! Now I can't find this. Where do I put things? It's not in episodes. It's not in business.
Well, we can maybe talk about the bed that's in the other room. What were your plans for that?
I'm gonna take it.
You're gonna take it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I'll take it.
And when were you planning roughly on doing this?
Probably in the next week or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Cool. That works well with me. Guess what I'm gonna do?
Move back in there?
No, I'm gonna clean the garden.
Damn.
Now that there's kind of like an owner. So basically, for those who are wondering at home, Juan's moved out, and of this luxurious mansion that I have here, it's going to be sorely missed. But that means I was thinking about this. I was dilly dallying. Should I get a roommate? I've had roommates before. I've lived plenty of times with other people. Some have been okay. They've never has it been fantastic. I suppose with you, it was probably the best it's ever been, for sure.
Because we barely
saw each other. But I did think, okay, and like, no, it would actually be amazing to get someone who speaks Spanish and actually speaks it, who would kind of speak it with me.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak it with you. It would ruin our friendship for sure. Or someone who, even better, someone who speaks German. But that would probably mean that I'd need to somewhat make myself and this place be a desirable place
True.
to live in. So yeah, the backyard, I'm like, all right, I'll give it a clean. I'll clean it up.
When are you planning on doing that?
I don't know, man. It's just in my head when I'll make some time. It'll become a priority pretty soon.
Gotcha. Okay. So you think it's like in September?
Most likely, yeah. Yeah, most likely.
Wait, so you're looking to get someone in by September?
Oh, not particularly, but just at least have the place cleaned up. Kind of, if the first step is not looking for a roommate. The first step for me, there is something about the idea of you search. It's kind of like with the presentation thing. I would have taken way longer to send you what I sent through of like the rough order of the slides if you
just on your own sort of thing.
Yeah, if you hadn't said, let's do this, like I'll help you out, send them through. And that kind of forced me to go, all right, I'll do it.
So anyway, I've been filling this in just before we actually start, but like just little shit like that. I wanted to be like, just talk about this. But the thing I wanted to talk to you about, this is the graph. So this is the...
Oh, cool. I haven't actually looked at that.
Yeah. So that's like...
We need to do that this podcast as well. Remember to do that because we forgot to do it last monthly goals.
To call it out?
Well, yeah. Just do that.
We'll do it during the middle portion.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no. So I guess it's just obviously there's the stats you sent me. I didn't use the extra ones.
Okay.
So whatever.
Just our podcast.
But I do like the fact that it's like a good linear growth. So it is slowing down, but it'd be this one I kind of wanted to build into the actual page. So something like this as well that can show like monthly and then try to have like individual lines of the people, but at least at the very start, that sort of level would be cool to do.
Oh man, my bloody hotkeys have gone away. That's BS.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or maybe it's because I don't have numlock on.
It's probably that.
There we go. Yeah. So just for those at home, I'll bring it up. I'll show what Warren was talking about. So it's live on the page now?
Oh, this thing? No. No. Sorry, that's what I want to put on the page. That's what I want to put and what I will end up. So,
is this updated?
Yes. Okay. So instead of what I want to do is I want to definitely keep the free shirt bit, and I'll probably put those to the right hand side of it, and then I'll put that graph below it just to give an idea overall, so people can see like that's the support month by month. Because looking at it that way, I actually see that roughly by that sort of 400,000 satoshis over on month to month. Like that's basically like, if people can continue supporting that to that level, and I know that Adam Curry does it with his newsletters and that, he's like, hey, if you provide this much on average from what we're getting from per person, you send this through, then it enables us to continue to make this podcast. So if we can continue this trend, fantastic. That's what enables us to create the podcast for you. And if we go any more, cool, then that's all gravy sort of thing.
Yep.
So, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Good. I have no notes. No,
while it's all working, I'll bring up my notes while we're doing, and I'll run today as well. Good. Why don't you want to minimize my screen? Here we go. All right. Let's rock and or roll. Woohoo, there we go. That's an interesting intro for you for sure. Welcome. As you might have heard in the little music there from Signs of New Growth, this is the Mere Mortals. You've got Kyron here on this side of the mic.
You got Juan on the other side.
Welcome
To the Wednesday for those who are there live. I know that we have changed it up a little bit, so if you are joining us live, you are in privileged grounds because you've joined us here.
You made it.
So if you make it along the way, awesome. But yes, welcome to Musings.
Congrats. Yeah, so this is a live episode like we just mentioned where we dive deeper into a particular topic that one of us has chosen out for this week. I chose this one, and this we've I chose regret. Regret. Now, you might, if you go back deep into the back catalogue, you might have known that we've already done this before.
We have.
Did you know that?
We have. Yeah, you mentioned this to me.
Okay.
You said that you went for a bit of a search, and we had talked about regret, but that it was specific.
So did you actually look at what it was? Okay. So I'll just kind of. This will be actually hard to find here because it's deep in the.
Wouldn't you be able to search it under our?
It's definitely searchable, but it's kind of like hidden in our old YouTube page, per se. But anyway, I think it was roughly episode 20, but I'll confirm that in a second. But we were talking more about the idea of regret.
That's what it was.
Number 21, and
we were listing like the things about like regret at the end of your life, the generic
kind of like top 5 things that people regret doing. So you had a list.
I do remember the podcast. Yes, because number 1 regret was being like current down. It said if you actually like current down, regret your life. You actually should. That's not even worth. That is not even called a life.
We're done.
So that's how it works.
Along with that, there was also other things like not letting myself be happy, spending too much time working. Those were the kind of things that the people on their deathbeds in old folks' homes and stuff were saying. So, but no, what I wanted to bring up was actually more of one related to our own personal regrets. So it's kind of more of a chance for the audience at home maybe to get a bit of a feel about what we're like, things that we've thought about.
And episode 20 would have been
21.
Episode 21 would have been in 2020. If I can get the years right, so
that would.
It might even be. It might be an interesting play, and just going and listening to maybe some snippets of that one, and also coming back to this one, or inversely, listen to this, go and listen to episode 21.
There'll be a link in your chapter right
just
now.
to see the changes as well, because perhaps we would have talked about some things and gone, do they influence now? Do they come into the picture?
Did I have hair then? I can't even remember.
21, I don't think you did.
No, I'd shaved it off maybe 5-10 weeks earlier.
Yeah, okay. So perhaps, did you talk about regret there about shaving your hair? I can't remember. I actually can't recall.
No, I don't. Don't regret at all. No regrets here for that.
Okay, so we got personal regrets. So how do you want to kick this off? Do you want to just go straight into talking about how you structured it?
Yeah, you know what? Let's get into like actual moments of things that you regret. And one of the things I wanted to bring up was something related to the idea. I heard this. Where did I hear this the other day? It was I was chatting with someone and they brought up this idea that you can say something and it will just stick with someone. Actually, I wasn't chatting with this. I heard it on the Zen Garage podcast.
Oh, yep.
Podcast. It's on YouTube. I don't think it's an actual podcast. I don't think he has an RSS feed. So
okay.
If you want it, you have to go look up Zen Garage.
On YouTube.
Justin Fox.
Yeah.
And he does this Monday morning rant. And one of the things he was saying was this guy said something to him. Funnily enough, it's about balding. He's
really?
He's starting to go bald. And he was one of his uncles one time just said to him, probably in a drunken haze, probably an offhand comment, looked at the back of his head in a kind of swirl and just said, "Yeah, you're going to go bald one day for sure." And it just stuck with him. And that was that's like 2 decades ago, probably more. And
wow.
I think there's something in that because I've had that as well, where a couple of instances where people have just said something to me and I'm sure it's an offhand comment, but it has just stayed in my mind. And I don't know,
Wait, but how does that form? How does that form regret?
Yeah, so linking to this is there's a couple of things that I've also said, which I think I look back and I'm like, that small moment where I just said this one thing,
Right?
Would this affect other people as well? And there's one thing that I really regret. So funnily enough, not only was I being a jackass, but I regretted being a jackass. Was there was
There's two different things for sure. Yeah, you could be a jackass and be like, they deserved it.
Yeah,
they should have done it.
Yeah. No, this was all on me. So in high school, so it was grade 10. I believe I was grade 11. So I was still kind of oldish. I think I was, that's 16 years old. Yep.
Mature. About to move out of home, basically.
Semi-mature-ish. And there was this guy who used to go to my primary school, and he was actually the grade below, but he was kind of smart enough that he got bumped up into the OP, the grade above for English. And one of the things that I really disliked about him was he was a smart aleck and a know-it-all.
Yep.
And he just every little thing about him bugged me so much. And anyway, we had this English class. I think we were doing Othello or Shakespeare or something, and we had to do an oral presentation. Once again, kind of bullshit. English, you're doing oral stuff in English. I'll let it slide. And he really went out of his way to do the part. He got some kind of fancy clothes. He had a hat on. He had a prop or two, and he would fully, change his voice, get into the character, reading out his lines. He'd memorized everything.
So basically, here's this dude, putting joy into the world, putting energy into his task, putting into he's like, I'm doing my best in this world.
Yeah.
And Karen goes,
I was sitting in the back of the class. I was sitting, actually, I think with our friend Manchu, and I remember saying, "What a fucking loser! What a fucking loser!" And I was probably making snide comments, but before that, and then I came out with this, and there was a guy next to me who I'd never really talked to. I don't particularly want to tell names. I'll tell you afterwards because you'll know them. But he was kind of this stoic character anyway. He was one of those popular people, but who was a quiet popular person, right? And I remember probably my being a jackass was bugging him, and he turned to me and he said, no, that takes courage to do what he just did. And it shut me up, 100% shut me up.
Yeah.
Here's the kind of cool kid putting the nerd kid kind of Kyron, the semi-nerd in his place. Not that I don't know if he liked this other guy either. I think he was just sticking up for a kind of a principle and saying what was right, which was indeed, it did take courage to do what he did. Yep. And man, that stuck with me. That stuck with me a long time. And I still remember it, willing enough to bring it up on the podcast and go, I regret how much of a weasel I was in a way back then, where I didn't get it. There's so many things I regret from that. I regret him bugging me. I regret not recognizing someone who's, actually showing courage and doing something, even if I dislike it. I regret not being able to keep my mouth shut. I regret, saying a negative thing about a guy I honestly didn't even really know. Just so many piled on. So there's small moments like that where things like that pop up in my mind, and I go, man, I regret doing that. It's a small thing. Why haven't I forgotten that? Why haven't I forgotten that as compared to so many other things, which I'm sure I've done? Why are these small little moments that capture your attention and just stay in your mind? Do you have any like that where either you've done it or perhaps it's even something that you might have said unintentionally that hurt someone later, and then do you feel regret from that? Yeah, two kind of separate issues there.
Yeah, I mean, to the point that you said about why is it that you recall it so much, I'm sure at some part it's got to do with that moment in time paired with whatever emotion that was elicited. Obviously would have been maybe you were feeling positive about the thing you were saying, and then it became a really negative thing in an emotional sense, and so that memory got attached to that very rigidly. So perhaps it's happened a lot of other times, but maybe you don't get caught out for it, or it just doesn't imprint as much as that particular piece. I can imagine, remembering that. But of course, like I've got heaps of items that I can remember in my mind very specifically, like, oh, this is what happened. So one of the ones that I wrote down, I was like, okay, regret. And mine are just broader. Like mine are not probably like specific. But so here's an example from mine, which was I wrote overworking on the deadlift. That's a regret of mine. Overworking on the deadlift, right?
Can you believe what you're hearing, people?
And
I don't believe it.
And not giving ample time to recovery and good form. Because I'll go specific and then I'll go broader. Broader is specifically, I remember being in Good Life with you guys a couple of years ago, deadlifting and going up to a relatively heavy weight. I believe we worked up to 170 kilos that day. All good, all fine. I can't particularly recall whether I had a pre-existing injury or I was sore or I was tired. Unsure. But on the way back down, I got lazy with my form. I remember not caring really that I was getting lazy with my form. And just at one particular point, in fact, when I was starting to lower it down, I just felt like my spine and my hips kind of give way, drop the weight, fall backwards. And I was like, oh man, like this is really bad. Now, eventually my legs started functioning after a while. Because it was like almost paralyzed all the way down. Yeah. I was like dragging myself away. But that's the acute memory that I can remember of something like that. I can kind of
I missed it as well. Me and the others were over by the leg extension.
Now I can hazily remember other times with deadlifting where that's also been the case. And this is not as hazy. I remember I always feel regret after doing a really heavy deadlift session that hasn't been correctly set up with the right form, with the right preloaded training, and then the next couple of days I pay for it. Always. My lower back, I pay for it always. And so one of the things I went is, okay, I actually do regret overtraining deadlifts, caveat, without great, excellent form, precursory setup, because you got to remember now, we are mere mortals, but I'm some sort of lunatic when it comes sometimes to training. And my way of training for many, many years was, I'm just going to go in, I'm going to train really high volume and really heavy and really hard, and that's just going to be it. That is only going at one speed. And it's only now where I'm starting to train specifically with fitness on starting to build up to it. So to give you an example, with say chest with bench press at the moment. So the way that I previously got my new 1 rep max and the way that I'm doing it this month again, it's a pretty semi-slow build up. So on a Monday I'm doing 6 sets by 3 at 75%. And then on Wednesday, I'm doing 6 by 4 at 75%. On Friday, it's 6 by 3 at 77.5%. And then kind of goes on and on through the weeks. So the progress is quite slow. Like it's slow. Yes, my old self would be like, no, let's just 80, 90, 120%, let's do it. And that's what got me into trouble in the first place, particularly in the deadlift. So I go, okay, that's definitely I regret that if I could. And when I say regret, we're talking about things that if you could go back, you would change. I'd absolutely go back and change the way that I was training, specifically a deadlift, because I've gotten injured in all sorts of ways, like shoulder injury and whatever other injury from training. But it kind of came back to all 100%. So 100%. So I'm not regretting it. That's fine. But with lower back, it's one of those that never came back to 100%. So if I was to say, could I ever get back to my 1 rep maxes that I was doing back when I was 2021? I'm like, it doesn't feel like I could get back to that just because of the way that I trained then, and now my body just wouldn't be able to handle it. So I'm like, there's some regret there.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Have you felt that at all? Like from a physical perspective, has there been any particular thing that you're like, you know what? I regret that I did that running challenge because it actually, if I could go back, I wouldn't do it at all. Or even now, are you finding there's some movement or something you're doing that you're going to go on to regret? You're going to be like, actually, I do this, like if I get injured doing this particular move for whatever reason, it's not actually towards, my overall goal of this thing, and I get injured because of that, then I'm going to regret doing that 100%.
There, I did talk in that last episode 21, about anticipatory regret, which was the idea that you'll change your actions based on what you think you might regret, or you kind of do it anyway despite thinking that you might regret it. It's this kind of weird self-destruction type of mentality where you go like, I assume everyone has had this in one point in their life where they just say, fuck it, I don't care, and then do what they know is a bad thing that is likely going to hurt them. I feel everyone has had a moment of that in some sort in their life. Have you had that?
I was trying to like think of an example.
In any case, the idea, so with that at the moment, I would say, one of the core things that I try and follow in my life is kind of even though I don't care about longevity in terms of living to a really long age, I have no, I don't know. I saw my grandpa live to 99 and it wasn't a great existence that he was living when you're that old. And
well, I guess this goes back to like the example of I'm saying with like deadlifting and back, right? Like I regret that I did that because I could be training maybe more effectively, more efficiently now, but in that anticipating what's going to be in the future, if I get to be 60 or 70 years old and my hips are stuffed or my back stuffed because of those deadlifts I did, then that regret's just going to amplify even more. Like it's going to be like, oh my God, now I really regret it. Where is it affecting me day to day? No, not particularly. Does it affect it when I do a lot of lower back work, a lot of heavy squats and the like? To an extent. But could it now get to the point that in 10 years, 20 years, it's going to affect much more because of that? Maybe. And so I go, oh man, I can feel the regret coming. Like I can feel the bubbling of regret. So I'm regretting it now. Well, I regret it now to some extent. Like let's say
the building of regret.
20%.
I haven't heard of this before.
But there's like a bubbling of regret that's coming. Like I could see it in the future. Like if you watch a video of say Ronnie Coleman and dude got really huge. If you don't know who that is, go look up Ronnie, lifting some weights.
It's a bodybuilder.
Big black guy. Now he got incredibly huge. He stopped training. Now he got quite injured. And he had to go in through all these surgeries. And now he still has some kind of muscle. Like he's actually still got some and he tries to train. But for the majority, like his body is quite broken.
Yeah.
Now, some people might go and find that, whether it's in bodybuilding, powerlifting, whatever you aspired to when you achieved it, that's worth the pain and all the suffering that comes afterwards. Yeah, for me personally, it's not like I'm aspiring to be number one in any fitness thing at all. Like that's not my aim for anything. I want to be good at a lot of things, but I don't want to be number one. I've accepted that probably through majority of my life. But so I still go, okay, if my priority is health, I can feel the bubbling of things that I'm going to regret if I so choose to go and continue to do X things. So I guess maybe in a good way, if I was try to look at this in a good way, the deadlift perspective has helped me now see that if I start feeling a little bit off about a particular workout movement that I'm doing now, I'm going to really start focusing in on, okay, is that actually worth doing anymore type of deal? So with deadlifts, I'm not going to say never. I'm going to say there is going to be, but the amount of times I'm going to hit a 1 rep max of deadlifts is probably going to be in the tens for the rest of my life. That you're not going to see me do 10 in a year. It's going to be 3 in a year, 2 in a year, perhaps. Okay. And there's going to be a quite good build. Am I going to pay for it in the immediacy term? Probably like in a week or two afterwards, perhaps for a level, but that's manageable in the scheme of life. And it's not going to probably worsen whatever continues, but I've gone, okay, that regret, I don't want to get that regret to almost grow exponentially if I continue to do what I was doing. So I go, okay, there's some learnings behind that. And equally, for some reason, doing some more running again starts aggravating X tendon or whatever. I'd go, you know what? It's not worth that. I don't want that regret to be bubbling up on that aspect of it as well.
Yeah.
So that's an example that I sort of wrote down.
Yeah. Well, look, the best one-arm handstand is they all kind of pretty much say you're going to get hurt probably badly at some point in your journey to get really good at a one-arm handstand. Yep. Because it's just such a unique position to be putting your shoulder and arm in that, the smallest thing, you can be rock solid most days, but that one day where, you tweak over or you just fall out of it slightly awkwardly, you twist kind of in a weird way and you try and catch it and you can't catch it,
Yeah, man, and looking at it, I don't know why watching Icarus again, opened my eyes again to a lot of these things, but as a mere mortal, and you want to become the number one in whatever, and there's probably going to be more in the fitness, physical aspect or domain, there's a high likelihood that everybody who's in the top areas of those things, might be doping, might be using things that are, improving their recovery. They're probably not mere mortals, right? There's either something genetically, chemically that they're doing that's making them not be a mere mortal. And so to think that, you as an individual, maybe as blasé, be like, oh, okay, I can become the number one in this particular sport or domain by just being me and training really well. Absolutely, you're probably going to get absolutely destroyed. If you tried to follow the training protocol of incredibly elite trainers, I'm just thinking like a CrossFitter or the way a bodybuilder might do.
What about David Goggins is coming to Brisbane and
he is. February, so David Goggins, right? He gets injured all the time. Like he gets like terrible
bloody
things for his feet, and now he can do that. And I'm sure you can do that. But man, are you going to regret all of these things that you're doing now? For David Goggins, he might not.
That's a good question.
Do you know David Goggins' backstory at all? Do you know much about his backstory? I know
he's super fat and like struggled, was something to do with the army as well, and it was like just had a bad childhood home, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that, but like bad childhood home is like not even close to cutting it. So because I'm reading David Goggins' book at the Don't Hurt Me at the moment, so I've just like read the beginning bit about his childhood. Man, completely fucked. Like it's woeful. So I go, okay, probably like broken feet and whatever is like nothing compared to what they were dealing with. Cool. So you kind of see that. Cool. So it's like
good.
But for everyday mere mortals, you go, man, you might see them and go, okay, cool. So that's what I've got to do. You're going to, at some form, like unless you're really determined to, try your hardest, break your entire body, not come first, just do it for the passion of doing it and being okay with how broken your body is. Awesome. All power to you. But I think being realistic in a lot of those things, I mean, like, can I train 7 hours a day, every single day, and absolutely letting everything else go and be okay with, or, knowing that you're not going to regret it. Okay, that's probably going to be a hard look. So at least that aspect, while it's minimal in comparison to a lot of other things, helped me to go, okay, I can manage and modulate things now in a little bit different. Okay. So there's one aspect of regret.
All right, cool. Let's jump onto the boostergrams and the
let's do that.
Sum up, and then I've got I don't know, maybe slightly more obscure. There's not too many more other little things I regret in life. Like there's, as I was saying, I think there's a bunch of those mini ones, but there's a somewhat forgiveness that I have for myself. I'm kind of lenient, especially of stuff before I was 20. Even before 25, when your brain's still kind of forming. I'm kind of lenient on that. So even though I was a total jackass to that kid, I'm kind of forgiving myself in a way because it's just like,
Yeah, look, I'll we'll get into it afterwards because I've got some. I guess to leave you in a tantalizing spot. I think a couple of the other regrets I want to talk about. It's regrets that it's not so much that I regret to the point that I wish I could change it. It's regrets that I'm lenient to my younger self that I would not be lenient to myself now.
Yeah.
So it's like that level of regret
that can't be made again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Correct.
Actually, just before you do that as well, so I know my brother is in the chat, and he was saying to me roughly that I think it was 20 or 30% of gym goers are on steroids. Is this
damn? That's a high level.
That sound high to you?
That sounds high, but it might be true. I don't know. I think in global population, that's probably a little bit over the top because I couldn't imagine the general population to be on steroids like that many people. Like we just imagine just like a random gym.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know where the stats come from.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a particularly scientific one, but I was just using the kind of rough bullshit test of does this make sense to me? It just seems too high.
It does seem too high. I'm gonna say it's higher than we probably do think it is, but 3 in 10 people that you see at like a gym, I'd probably say that's a little high. Difference between you go to World Gym or you go to Anytime Fitness or F45.
And it
You're
depends
you're probably not going to see 3 out of 10 in those aspects. But
Okay, interesting. No particular chat comments, so let's just go into the Boostagrams that we got this last week, whilst I bring up the chart.
Cool. Okay, so how far back do I have to go this time around?
Oh, yeah, that'll be a tricky one. So it'll be the
31st
last
of
Sunday
August.
before.
Yep, so 31st of August is where I go from.
Before that. Much before.
Much before that?
Yep, you need to go the 28th.
Damn.
That was the last live one we did.
As in, we read the 28th?
I'm not sure. Depends.
Yeah, because we did read about the nice chocolate-coloured beanie, Karen. Love it. From the Beanie Guru.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. So the next one after that is from the August 31st. So, once again, folks, Boostagrams. This comes from directed Boostagrams for you, the listeners out there, who also attach some Satoshis to it as well. We are a Value for Value enabled podcast. So if you also want to hear your comment being read out and you can support us, then all the merrier. And I think you're sharing this screen right now, which actually shows our top 4 supporters so far as well for the podcast. And once again, if you reach that magical 100,000 sat limit or boundary, then we'll be sending you a shirt on us from the Mere Mortals. Okay, now we got one from Petar, and obviously I can see why Petar and Dave Jones are up on here. So Petar sends 50,000 sats using Fountain, big boy sats. Woo! He says, that realization that you don't need to finish a book you're not enjoying is a huge problem for me too. I think Karen's philosophical book journey has inspired me to also stop this time-wasting obsession to never let them go. Yeah.
Look, the funny thing is I had already acknowledged I don't need to read every book. And I'd already gotten over that hump. But it was now that there was a goal attached. So I think you might even still have this to a slight extent, maybe not. But I'd gotten over that hump of just in general, every book I start, I have to finish. But yeah, with that goal attached to it, it was like, fuck, all right. I've got to slog through this one because there's a goal attached to it. Now that's gone. I've learnt my lesson. Regret, never doing book goals again. I've already spoiled it. But the other thing is, fun fact, your reading volume will go up when it's stuff that you actually want to read. So I've got 2 book reviews to do this week, and I've almost
it's been purely from not having a goal. Really,
pretty much. And I've almost finished 2 other books, so we'll be going back to weekly, by the way.
Damn,
for sure.
Yeah. Well, there's my book review's coming out, and actually speaking of David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, I believe is what it's called. Yes, Can't Hurt Me, or Can't Touch Me. I think it's Can't Hurt Me. I started reading it like 2 days ago, and I'm already like a third of it through it. So I was like, damn. I was like, and it wasn't a girl. It was just out of there. But yes, Peter, I do still have that though. I can't seem to not finish a book. I feel it's like blasphemy to do it at the moment in my mind. But I'm getting better because I do that with podcasts all the times. Where I'll get to like 3/4 of the way or 5/8 of the way, and I'll just go like, whatever. And it can't hurt me.
Master your mind and defy the odds.
Yeah, I'll never forget the subtitles of it, but yes, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. Anyways, Peter, thank you very much. Next one down, we got Dave Jones. He sends 2 here. 5,112 sats sent using Castmatic twice. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Now, the first one here is, okay, y'all's discussion about a Mastodon toot leading to a podcast follow gives me a really interesting idea. Yes, that would be an interesting idea. And the second point from Dave is, you really don't want to be in the annals of history, Juan. That's a whole different thing.
Juan loves the annals of history.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing, folks. So thank you very much, Dave, for those sent through to Castmatic. We've got a little test one that came through from us using Fountain.
Yeah, so I think I was showing somewhat at a crypto event how the Boostagrams work. And thankfully, it actually did work.
Not all the time does it work. But
it's been I've had a kind of rough period over the last couple of months, to be honest. The whatever Wi-Fi I was using did not want to get stuff through, or maybe the Lightning network just continually on a Thursday evening at 7:30 p.m. when I'm chatting with people decides to
just not work.
Also possible, but yeah.
And the final one here I've got from Peter. He sends 25,000 sats.
Peter, you're too kind, mate. Thank you.
Too kind. He says, live is tough for me because of the time zone differences, but there is definitely something cool about that instant feedback. I agree. I had about 50 podcasts in my app. That's so much. I would try to keep up with, but there is only so much time in the day, and so I'm slowly trimming that down. Don't worry, the Immortal Musings on live will always make the cut.
Check out this shit. So I was going through the fountain charts the other day, and so there's all sorts of charts. There's ones which are about the hot shows, hot episodes, and baller boosts. Check out how many times Peter appears.
I was going to say it must be Petar, like all the top.
On 2, 12, 17. There was more on here.
What was his number 2 boost?
That one was 100,000 sats sent to Talking in Bits.
Damn.
And okay, so there's another one down here, 45. But I legit saw him in this chart 10 times. he was the top 10. Honestly, and they were all for different shows. So awesome. Yes, he's not kidding when he says he's got 50 shows.
That's cool, man. I dig it. That's awesome, Peter. Obviously, the support that Peter and everyone else sent through. So obviously, we got Dave Jones and Peter supporting us this time. But again, we sort of recommend to basically, if you want to support us as a podcast, Boostagram's or sending through Satoshis via the Podcasting 2.0 network is really the best way to do so.
For sure. Yep.
So if you can do that, obviously go through our website and you can look at the top right. We've got some links there to actually help you out in terms of how you might be able to do that. Look, and places like Fountain, Breeze, and a few others are making it pretty easy for you to actually start being able to, 1, get into having some sort of cryptocurrency, specifically here, Bitcoin, and 2, supporting people through those podcast platforms. So.
Yep. And so we will update the charts. Juan's got some cool stuff going on, but just roughly how much were they?
Yeah, so
you said it was like about 400,000 a month, something like that.
Yeah, so basically
that's crazy. People are crazy.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, we're only talking about now the Mere Mortals podcast, right? We're not even talking about Mere Mortals book reviews and Valley for Valley, but on a rough basis, it was around the delta month to month is about 400,000.
Wow.
So, it's about 400,000 Satoshis sort of monthly support coming through to the podcast.
You guys are amazing. Thank you.
And obviously that sort of level to us at the moment. I'd love to see what it was like for the first month of doing it. And obviously we've been doing this now for a year, a little bit over a year now.
It would have been one Boostagram.
One Boostagram, right?
It would have been Chad Farrow.
Yeah. So it's obviously awesome to see, and it's for us. I think we were talking about this. We have to actually look into the numbers properly, but that level of support and a continuation of that is what allows us to continue to do the podcast. Put the effort, put in the value to obviously give you the value that you seem to be getting in return. So
for sure. Just before we begin on again, Westside Baby. So, aka my brother says, I've seen 20% quoted, and it was interesting because it touched on the fact that it's not just the obvious roid heads who are juicing, but everyday guys with very little muscle on the roids.
Well, yeah, I would say this too, because there are people that people have actually mentioned this to me of saying like, you must be on gear or on steroids because I know my friend is on it, or I know this person's on it, and they're tiny and they're small. Now, I don't know if you understand. So, folks, for those at home who might not understand what steroids actually do, or or what training does, but just to give you an idea, Lance Armstrong was convicted or found to be using all these peds and whatnot.
Yeah.
And now he wasn't huge. He wasn't a big guy, right? So you can.
He had some pretty big legs, right? There.
No, they wouldn't be bigger than ours. Yeah. They would be probably smaller than ours. Yeah, I mean they're light dudes. Look, I've never seen him in person. I'll put it out right now. I'm sure my legs are bigger than his.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
Like if that's not, I might as well call myself carrying down. Regret.
Give up.
So, regret life. But
do what I do. Just
stop.
Barely exist.
I wouldn't even call it that. But but the fact is, when taking peds or steroids or whatever it may be, it's the recovery aspect of it that's the important piece, not the actual growth, right? So what I think most uninitiated people think is, I go to the gym, I lift this, do this bicep curl, I'm getting bigger, and that's me getting bigger. It's like wrong. No, like what you see with your muscle getting bigger is more blood going into the muscle, but you're actually breaking down the muscle fibers, actually tearing micro tears. Then you go home, you fill yourself with protein. That muscle reconnects, all the fibers reconnect again, but they reconnect a little bit longer, a little bit more stretch, and that's the muscle actually getting bigger. Strength is a different thing, but you actually get muscle when you're recovering, when you're sleeping, etc., eating, blah, blah, blah. Steroids actually just help you recover quicker. So whatever you're taking, peds, whatever, yes, it can support better breathing, better whatever, better utilization of energy efficiency, but it's predominantly the recovery aspect. So when you hear people going, I can work out 4 hours in the morning and then 2 hours in the night, and I'll go and do it again the next day and then do it again the next day and then do it again the next day. Okay. And they're doing it successfully without like being a broken like heap on the ground. All right. Something's going on there because that's just normal human
I'm starting to get nervous because that's not too far off what I do.
Well, no, but that's like unless you're doing high intensity muscle. Well, yours are not muscle tearing workubouts.
Yeah,
as in the fact of like
they're much more technical.
Yeah. Like the difference between what we do and a 6-hour bike ride is substantially different. And
yeah, for sure.
I can tell you right now, my workouts are starting to get to the point that they're like a little bit too much. Like it's now every day my legs are sore. There's not a day now that my legs are not sore. And I go, okay, I'm probably gonna have to start like scaling back down.
When I wake up, my wrists are sore, but that's about it. I don't have DOMs from anything else.
Mine have like gone beyond DOMs, and it's like it's just consistently sore. There's not a movement I do at the gym now that my legs are not sore.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, I can't. I don't think physically I could do a 100% maximal effort because they're just that continuously sore. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just while we're on this, there is one thing to add, which is I have seen videos of people analyzing studies. So I haven't gone into the study myself and checked this, but if you do take steroids, you will gain muscle without doing anything. It'll be a small amount, but you will gain muscle, but you won't be looking like a guy who was on steroids by not putting in the 3 or 4 hours in the gym every single day whilst using steroids. So there's that factor to add in as well.
But yes, thank you for the addition there in the comment.
Okay, forgiveness, man. Well, so I kind of brought up the idea of forgiveness. Do you forgive yourself for past misdemeanours?
No, but I'm sure I do. Like mentally, I'm like, yes, of course I do. But so these are not misdemeanors. So I guess I didn't go down the path of any like that. I have any things where I regret it because I was like an emotional outburst and like, I don't know if I could ever say that I would regret. I would always forgive. I think at that point, and it's not something that I look now and go, oh, that was a real regret. I go, at the time, the person who I was, I couldn't have expected it any other way, to be honest. So it was like, was it a regret? Not, even if I would say yes, it's like, could I have done anything better at the time? Maybe, but that's probably stretching it. I'm like, that was just the person I was at that point. There's nothing much I could have really done. Am I going to be less lenient on myself, when it happens now? Okay, for sure. But there's also improvements to that. So I didn't really note that down. The ones I noted down, so these are two, which are just slightly different. So one, I do, again, it's like a stretchy regret, but not being more adventurous on my travels when I was younger. And I think that's probably a combination of the fact that now we've got COVID and restrictions and a bit of differentiation on it. Now, I guess I'm older. There's other, things that are
factors
keeping me around. Factors around, things that I'm doing where I kind of go, when you never really truly, that was probably one of those where people said to me, travel as much as you can when you're younger, or travel, it's a really good thing. And hell, I did travel to quite a few places. But now when I think about it, I go, maybe it still wasn't enough. I go, damn, I can start to feel that regret now of, and I'm not putting myself like, I was like, oh, that was a terrible thing because I did still travel. But I go, I can see now that I'm going to have some regret that I didn't go and travel through Europe, a big European trip. I never did that. I went to Greece, but I never did the big European trip. What are you doing
in 2024, man?
2024.
I've got my eyes on Europe for 2024. There you go.
So is there a possibility that's still going to happen? Absolutely. But I guess the reason I wrote this down for me was that ability to just travel at the drop of a hat is probably not one. It's probably not one that is going to happen as easily, and also probably not one that I would want to do as much anymore, even though it's a regret. So it's a bit of both ends in the sense of could I right now drop everything I'm doing and fly to LA and just enjoy a week? Absolutely. I could literally do that. I could go right now, book the flight, go and do it. I've got the means to do all of that easily. Do I want to though? I go, oh, I don't want to, and it's because I've disciplined now a particular day-to-day routine that I really enjoy. I've got a partner here that I'm attached to. There's family members. There's just things I'm doing here which I want to do that. So do I have the availability and the possibility to do it? Absolutely. But there was a certain time and place when doing it would have been probably nearing the top 5 things that I should be doing at that point. So maybe there's a bit of regret on that side. Now, I don't know if if you'd feel that at all.
I mean,
because you did quite a bit of traveling, obviously, in one big period, in one sort of concentrated period.
Yeah, there's one. In general, no. In general, I made a lot of advances, I would say. And this will get to another point I want to talk about kind of the biggest regrets that you just can't let go away. But in this case, yeah, sure. I was in Peru, and all I checked out was Lima and Huacachina, and I was there for 3 weeks. And I was fucking exhausted, man. I just did not want to go anywhere, even though it would have been amazing to go and, see some of the things I'd read about when I was a kid, NASCAR lines. I remember reading a book about these lines and being like, that's the craziest shit. There's no way that exists. And they exist. There's small things, but I've never once spent more than a second other than just going, oh well.
Didn't see it. Cool. Yeah.
And all the things, I should say this now, all the things that I've brought up so far, there haven't been anything that I would spend more than 2 minutes thinking about in reality, saying that mean thing about that kid.
Yeah. That's not keeping you up at night every day?
It's not keeping me up. The ones which I've spent probably most time and which I feel the most acutely are these weird ones where I almost died. So when I was driving out to Emerald for my second vacation trip, so I would second vacation work. So this is basically I had to drive through the middle of Queensland to get up to Emerald. It was about a 12 hour drive, 13 maybe. And basically just long sections of 2-way roads. So, one going one direction, one coming the other, with big trucks on them.
Big trucks.
Big doubles and things like that. So this is, things with 2 trailers attached, filled with farm stock or supplies.
Man, why can't I just smell a speeding with the car, trying to get around trucks story coming? Yeah, exactly that.
Pretty much it. Went down this hill. He allowed me to overtake. He was indicating I should overtake now, and it was one of those zones where there was an extra lane, so I could go do it. But I arrived at this weird time. I wasn't sure. I was going downhill. It was like, it was just one of those ones where I was like, better to err on the side of caution. So I did. Then, immediately after erring on the side of caution, I was now stuck behind a truck doing 70 or 80 or whatever it was. And I still had 4 hours of driving ahead of me. And, every 10 minutes that I was behind that was just, an extra couple of minutes on the road.
And we all know Karen loves to drive.
I love driving. And so not too long after this zone where I could have overtaken, I just went, all right, I'm going for it. And as I went for it, the road turned into a long curve. And this was a 13-meter truck or whatever, like maybe even longer. So it took me probably about 20 seconds to overtake from me accelerating hard.
This is why I vouch for good, powerful cars.
To me getting, safely beyond it to be able to move back in. Anything coming the other way, I assume I would have died. I'd have had to either been hit straight on, go off the side of the road, hit a tree. It just would have ended terribly. If I hadn't died, it would have been a miracle that I survived, and I would not have been the person you see, the Greek god you see.
The Greek god / useless human that he is today. But I agree. I'm sure.
And that one keeps me up, and I go. Sometimes just before I go to bed, that one will hit me, and I go. Like just clench because I don't know what it is about this one. It's something is about the death aspect that it's probably the closest I've come to dying. In the sense that it was one of those ones where I was like, oh geez, if something bad happens now, it's going to be really bad. I ended up in my Blues Mazda getting up to 130 Ks on it. That was the max. I got up to.
Damn, dude, that's scary numbers on that Mazda.
Yeah, for sure. And
would have felt like you're taking off on a plane.
You know, what would it have been? Why do I regret that one more than like? Why does that one sting and stay in my mind more than anything else? I'm not sure, man. I don't. It's you know, it could be that my dad, you know, the last things everyone said to me was, you know, as I was heading off, I love you, stay safe, drive safe, and then
didn't drive safe.
Then car crash.
Yeah.
You know, caused by myself as well, not
like a self-caused thing. Yeah. I was just trying to think. I'm sure there's like equivalent things that I've done, but for some reason, like none of them have really been like things that I rethink about or go, oh, I really regretted doing that, because I guess nothing eventuated from it. So perhaps it's on me learning the lesson though. I was 20 when that one happened as well, so I can't be lenient for that. I feel like I should have known better for that one. Absolutely, you should have known better. Look, the final one I actually just wrote down here was just wasting a few years trying to play the game of politics of work. So that's probably, again, a personal regret that I go, is it something that I'm... In the
sense of trying to climb the corporate ladder?
No, I probably wouldn't say the essence of the corporate ladder, because there was probably a lot of benefits. And in fact, if people are doing it today, I wouldn't say like, oh, you're going to regret that. You're probably not if you do really well. But I think that the regret of investing energy into aspects of politics or work drama or work conversations that deviated from the main point of doing it. And because now I see it so clearly in the difference between I do work where it's like I'm specifically there to deliver work, to do work. That's the value driven piece, as opposed to all the nonsense and shenanigans that goes around all over the place, right? So, you know, back in the day, does it tie in with the fact that you're working towards going up the ladder or going in, you know, that particular structure? Maybe. But, you know, I invested so much energy into conversations of performance achievement or how I could be doing this better. Or, you know, if you go to these 5 events and you do this and that, you know, it's going to help you out in the long term. Now, individually and probably combined, there was a lot of learnings and good stuff. So I don't regret the fact that I took away a lot of those things. But when I go, you know, did it really serve me well that I was able to, you know, talk to this particular person and make myself seem favorable in that aspect, and I was able to spend an extra 2 hours of quality PowerPoint time to do this for this person, so they could say, I go, you know what? No, not really.
No, it'll pay off now when you create me an awesome PowerPoint presentation.
Well, exactly. Well, true. But I guess, do the skills help? Absolutely. You know, that's not a regret. But I could have built up those skills without having to have played in that space. So like nowadays, you know, do I still have to do some PowerPoints? Absolutely. Do I have to still do conversations with people and influencing people non-directly and directly? Absolutely. But it's to the outcome of what's valuable to either customers, employees, me, you know, my team, whatever it may be. It's just driven towards that. And inversely, because I'm less focused on how it seems on my part, as in, you know, I'm saying this is kind of when you're younger, especially if you're like a young, I'm going to say here consulting terms, but if you're an analyst, like a brand new joiner, a graduate, whatever it may be, you sort of seem to think, and again, I was in that position that, okay, if you can make yourself look the best possible, like you're the number one graduate, you know, you put this PowerPoint together, you did this thing, you did blah, blah, blah. Great. That's what makes you awesome. You get promoted, which you probably can. And I think that's the whole space of the politics, the workspace of if you look really great, you'll get promoted. And that works up to a certain level until you realize that, you know, when you get to, there's different levels between, there's you doing work, there's you managing people who do work, and there's you managing people who manage people to do work, and nth degree, keep on going. It shifts, and then the priority around you doing work and getting other people to do work is a completely different thing. And there's, again, influence between direct and non-direct. And the amount of energy that can be wasted in amongst these layers because you're trying to make yourself play the game of the structure, that's the bit that I'm like, I regret having spent any energy in that, where it could have just been like, cool, there's this team of 10 people, you know, I don't see myself in a space where I'm like, oh, I'm your manager, so we need to talk about the energy of, you know, well, you report to me and I do this with this person. I'll have that conversation because it needs to flow well for me and I need to be seen like it. It's like,
yeah,
dude, who gives a shit? Like for now for me, I'm like, cool, we're doing this presentation. It's like, oh, well, you're the team, you're looking after this team and you're doing that. I'm like, you know what? Actually, I don't give a hoot who's presenting or whatever. Ultimately, it's like, who can best do this? Who can best do that? Where do we get this information? It doesn't bother me of whatever it is, as ultimately, whether it's just yourself or an entity or whatever, everyone's kind of succeeding. Cool, we've done the job. Doesn't actually matter where you fall in the picture. And so why I say inversely that that's kind of more beneficial is that because I am now that way, or I participate in that way, it makes it even better. Like you're seeing better ultimately because you're kind of just caring about the value or the team or whatever it may be. But I still regret the fact that I even spent an extent of time in it. Glad I learned it, but I wish I would have learned it in some other way and just not had to do that.
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple of things there. One is that sounds like absolute hell for me, and I would have tapped out of that. There's no way I would have been able to. I just don't see any possible way that I could have succeeded in that kind of position.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't even consider myself a straight talker. No one says that about me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut, but there's just something about that.
Well, so I'll give you this, and I wonder, and this is a little bit off topic,
but
whatever. And I don't know how it would be, how other companies do it, but I'm assuming it's in a similar manner. But in big consulting places, and most of them do a similar thing, right? Let's say you're a level 13, 12, 11, and you want to go to the next level up, whatever that may be. What generally would happen is, with this performance achievement or your performance round or your compass or whatever you want to call it, you basically pretty yourself up, you put some paperwork together, you've been having conversations with your manager, your supervisor, your personal lead, whatever it's called, and you go, this is what I've done, present me in the best light possible. And then all these people above you go into a session basically with everybody else where you're basically having to fight to promote this person, be like, this is why this person's so good, right? And these people have conversations for hours, like 10 hours, like I'm talking 10 hours per person or whatever, so that you can rank people by number, like this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, this is number, right? Wow. All this ranking, all these things, and they're getting down to like details of like, no, he spoke to this manager in this kind of way. That's a no. Have to read him on the ranking, and I go, there is so much energy wastage, and I got to see it because I was obviously I went from the place of giving all this information, right? Spending hours to be like, tell me, did you talk to this manager here on that day? And did you you have to like get to like little detail to being in meetings.
I can't do it. I can't even hear you talk about it without cringing.
To being in meetings where I'm having to collect this information and play. Like I personally regret being in meetings from like 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. discussing, okay, is this person going to be promoted because they did this a little bit better, or they were into this meeting, or they kind of like, man, at this level. And I get that it's needed. I do get that it's needed, but I go at the same time, holy shit, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I regret having spent so much energy and time.
Burn it down, man. Burn the whole fucking thing down.
That's the answer. Burn it down. Burn it down.
Wow, that's insane. There is a topic though, kind of related to this, which is sometimes you have to choose what things you're going to regret as well. I feel there's a trade-off that you sometimes need to make, which is, I feel like you probably need to butt your head against the wall with something. Now, what is it going to be? Can you justify it if you're butting your head the wall against, I don't know, in internal corporate structures and trying to get that one position higher for you or for your friend or whatever? Or, can you butt your head against the wall against trying to just learn some skill, but only being willing to put in X amount of hours per day, and you can just see like, I'm not progressing. I'm not going to progress beyond this plateau unless I really...
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's got to be...
I feel like there's some mistakes you have to make.
Oh, absolutely. And let's... here's an example that's probably more prominent to you and maybe a little bit different for other people. Let's just envision that, Karen, or, you at home listening to this, are out, perhaps you're single, and, this incredibly attractive female comes to you. Now for Karen, it's a Latina who speaks German as well, and it's into cryptocurrency.
Long hair.
Yeah. And
I've actually dropped the crypto part.
Oh, you dropped the crypto part? Okay, so...
Because that'd be nerdy. I'm nerd enough for...
But they know how to take pictures.
Yeah, photographer,
now,
that'd be helpful.
They come up, to you or to you at home in More Lights, and it's like, oh, this song that just came on, I really enjoy it. You want to come and dance with me? Like, come and dance with me. Like, I really want, like, you seem cool. Let's come and dance. Now, there's two levels of regret here. You can have the regret of, oh, am I going to regret going out here and making a fool of myself because I don't really know how to dance to this Brazilian jiu-jitsu movement that they're doing, right? Or there's the regret of saying no, seeing them walk away and go, man, I regret not doing that because now I don't get to talk to this person. Again, there's two levels of regret there. You kind of have to, you have to choose which regret do you want. And sometimes you go, you know what? If I choose a regret of going and making a fool of myself, at least there's some benefit. There's some benefits in there. And look, there could be benefits on the other one. So there's pros and cons to both regrets. But if you can quickly weigh that up, or even, preempt a few of these things and go, you know what, if that comes up or that sort of scenario comes up, I'll choose that. And even if the regret comes, it'll be less so than if I had not chosen to do that. Yeah.
I think there's a way of determining, and this will be probably the last point. There's some which you are kind of unforgivable. And these are the ones that are relating more to the deathbed, or even I've seen this in mid-40s people. And one of these was when I was leaving the mines. I was having my kind of farewell things, talking to all these people who I'd see once a month for a random meeting. Yeah. You kind of know them, but not really. And there was a goodbye drinks and a couple of people just asking what are you going to do? I said, I'll probably travel for a bit. I've always wanted to do that, but I'll go back to Brisbane first, spend some time there. And there was a couple of guys in particular who I would just say, they'd married, that had a comfortable life. They were in a job which is well paying, because all the jobs at the mines were well paying. And I could see the kind of resentment, the bitterness in them of me saying, I'm just going to do that. And they said, I kind of wish I'd done that when I was young, really enjoy it, sort of thing. And there was this something inside of them which made me go, oh, their life is not how they wanted it to be. There's something inside of them. And, my impetus for leaving was my life wasn't going the way I wanted it to be, because I could see myself becoming just like them. And I did want to travel, and I did want to do these other things. I think the big one was fear. If it's kind of related to a fear that you have, and you don't have to conquer every fear. We've talked about this before. But there's some big ones which I just think you can't let that one stay. And unfortunately, some of them are ones which if you don't do it in a certain time period, you're screwed.
A lot of time.
So you can try out being a comedian when you're 50 or 60. That's okay. That's not a life-changing one. And I'm sure there's people all the time who are in their 50s or 60s and finally get over that fear of going to an open mic. Beautiful. But if you're scared of traveling South America when you're young, like I was, if I didn't do that, I think that one would have been one of those ones which...
That just stuck around.
Yeah. And I've had a couple of them. One was... The biggest one was the social anxiety thing, getting over talking to girls. I'm sure I would have found a girlfriend at some point, and I probably would have married and latched on to the first one that I got. That just would have been bad all around. Yeah. I'd put the traveling one up there as well. And those two have just been those ones which were just, I knew they were so bad, and I there was just something inside of me which was saying, if you don't do this, this is going to be really bad for you in the long run, in the long run. So no matter how much it hurts now, you need to get over it and figure out how to do this one thing. Yeah. So, and then, there's a lot of other regrets, which I would say were the kind of peak ones, and they're ones which I should have known better, like repeating that same mistake twice. And this was related to girlfriends and not communicating properly, and in detail, not telling them something which I really, wanted or believed, in particular, like the South America trip, and not telling them about how strong that desire was, because I was afraid of the reaction, which was probably going to lead to tension for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of tension or conflict. And those ones where I think you can, it's the regret is not telling them, even though it probably would have gone just as badly in the sense like there probably would have been a breakup involved, but it would have happened earlier and kind of sooner in a way. And those ones, I think it would have been, even though the outcome would have been the same, it would have just been like, okay, but that was, that was kind of related to them as well. It wasn't all on me. Whereas not telling them was all on me. And then, we broke up anyway.
Yeah. Like that's still eventuated sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, you might as well, then again, that comes to the choice of, you're going to find regret probably in a lot of things and not in everything, but in a lot of options, you're going to find those regrets. And it's like, okay, is it in your own control of regret, or is it going to be just uncontrolled regret? Because sometimes you go, well, okay, I can see that, whether it's the control of what you say from either a not telling the full truth or just sort of withholding information or whatever it may be. It's okay, well, if I let that go and it does come out, okay, the regret's going to be even bigger. But if I do say this and, we break up sooner, okay, there's going to be a regret there, but there's also going to be a lot of pros in the fact that I was able to, be able to share that information, communicate, etc. I can see. I guess I'm just thinking about personally, do I have any regrets that are so like large like that I'm like, oh, I can just kill that? I'm like,
what about ones where you're maybe trying to distort reality? Because that's essentially what I was trying to do. I was trying to go, this thing is not a problem. This is, or if it is a problem, like it'll work out in the end. Like I was trying to push away this reality of this kind of difference of values, difference of
yeah. I mean, the only one that comes to mind as well though is
like lying.
Yeah, the biggest one that comes to mind, I guess, is just the overemphasis of money. And I think that was tying in with the whole going up the corporate ladder and working through in terms of the importance, or like where communication would be a bound of, oh no, it should be about money or pursuing money as opposed to pursuing something else. So if a job came up and it was like, oh, you're going from 70 grand to 90 grand, it kind of like, it didn't enter into the equation of, is it that much harder? How many hours? How many, is it shit? Is it going to be something that's going to be like brain dead boring? It's like, oh, that doesn't come into the equation. It's more money, so it must be good.
Yeah.
And obviously I think everybody gets to a point where it's like, okay, you kind of learn and being like, okay, actually more money doesn't equate to it being better. So a lot of those aspects to me are like, oh yeah, there was probably a lot of options, and I made it a part of one of the annual goals where I really try to emphasize it on myself of, okay, I'm not choosing roles that I'm doing or things that are coming out purely. And so I say purely because obviously it does have an influence, right? Yeah. But it's not driven by money anymore. And yes, I come saying that from a flexible position that I do have the choice to be able to do that. So I know some people don't, and so I understand that. But because I do have that choice and a bit of learnings on the path of, I've pursued going to, wanting to get promoted because it does bring extra money, and not even thinking of, well, do I even want to be promoted and working in that spot? Like not even thinking about what that means from a learning perspective. It was just a growth on the money perspective, which was like, okay, that's not useful at all. I guess I didn't see that as a regret specifically that I noted down, because there was a lot of learning behind that. But absolutely, like if I was to go back to that, I'd be like, man, that's a regret that I would choose to, if someone offered $500,000 job to clean toilets, right? My regret of like, oh, there's a regret of not taking it and making that much money, or the regret of taking it and being really like bored out of it and just having like a really horrific work time with it and having to spend that much time doing it, being brain dead bored. I'd go, okay, that regret's probably going to be worse off. And so you're going to make all this money, but it's like, yeah, but there's more power, there's more value for me to being challenged, to be, being doing things that are complex and got me thinking than just the money aspect of it all. And so,
gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. There was an episode, I think it might have even been the regret one, because I seem to remember listening to this not long ago, where I was talking about janitors and getting paid tons. Yeah. Do you remember that?
I do remember. I don't know if we talked about it or something like that. Yeah,
it was in one of those real early ones like that. Yeah. It was pretty funny. So if you, there's some snippets, there's some golden snippets.
I don't know what I said then, but I remember if I talked about if you got offered $1 million to work as a janitor and you had to work as a janitor for 8 hours per day and you couldn't listen to a podcast, you couldn't do anything, you could only clean as a janitor, I wouldn't take that. That wouldn't be something that I would do. And some people might be like, well, goddamn, that's a lot of money. And so, if you're in a position that you need money, maybe do it for a little bit. But I just go, is it really, being boosted up that much to have extra money really going to improve my life by the level that's going to be decreased by the fact that I'm going to have like a terrible time at work? I go, no, not really.
Yeah.
Like not by that level.
I think the point I was making then was that in a kind of more ideal future, you'd get paid related to the amount of people who are kind of willing to do that job, like the intensity of dislike of the job in a way. And so I was talking about how janitors could maybe be getting 100,000, 6 figures or something. It was something related to that. It was funny though. There you
go. So the most disliked job would be the most highly paid. So we figured it out,
something
folks.
Like that.
Current future wife, millionaire. There you go.
Yeah.
That's how we're going to end it.
Okay, nice. I actually did say here, one of the things that I would have regretted was not giving the podcast at least a shot of working. Because there was a period where we're doing it once a week, but we weren't really putting in too much effort. I remember feeling like a loser because I didn't have a job. And I even did do a job interview for a mining...
Around that time?
Yeah, it was probably like late... was
this for your previous role?
Would have been January or February 2020 because it was just before COVID. I remember that.
Right.
Yeah, it was one where one of the offers I got was, I'm pretty sure, the position I used to work in, something like that. But yeah, I think if I had done that and not moved in with you here, that would have been one of the times where I went like, oof, yeah.
That's interesting because, and we could go down the rabbit hole, but I think in a lot of parts, I don't know whether for me, if we'd done the podcast or not done the podcast, I wonder if I would have even really explored cryptocurrency once again.
I wouldn't. I would have been having enough money that it wouldn't have. It wouldn't have. Yeah, you would have been like, nah, not interested in that at all. Yeah. Yeah. Wild, folks. Wild how life can be. There you go.
Any other comments you want to extrapolate?
Pull
up or anything?
Gonna have to spend some time getting people to do the new thing. Trying to. There's also like the offering of why they should come as well. I think we need to think about the format and see if there's a way we could make it more interactive for the people at home and things like that. Yeah, stuff to be worked on.
I think we'll probably do something like Karen will give away Hosky for every participant in the chat.
I can do it if they want.
Yeah. It's more just the pain of like doing like them. Actually you doing it and sending it to people.
I mean, there's so much pain all round. I showed you were talking about those free NFTs. I've had 2 or 3 in this last week and I just haven't bothered to do anything with them. There's funnily enough, so the Hosky in Vegas episode I did, this guy is a musician and he asked permission to take a clip or 2 of them speaking and he's going to put it in his music somehow. And then was saying like, what's your address? I'll like mint you an album and send it to you.
That's cool.
And I was like, no man, just tell me and I'll do it myself. Like I'd pay to have a Hosky track.
That's kind of cool.
With part of my own creation.
Yeah, I like that. All right, let's finish it off. I know we talked about it already in the middle portion, but how can people support the podcast?
Yeah, for sure. There's going to be a couple of different. I suppose the highlighting is one thing I wish I'd done a bit better. So I'm going to try and nail this one about the particularly the ethics portion of the value for value. So one thing which I have said many times before, but probably not often enough, is like, you will never see an ad voluntarily being put in by me into this. Now it's possible you might see ads around it. I can control some of that in some cases, but we really need to do a full episode on like ethics. I think of like things, not even just related to this, but things that we will not do.
Yep.
And
then in 2 years' time, you can call us out and be like, "God damn it!"
That honestly, it would be one of those ones where it's like I would have to make it so clear that if I break this one, like there's no credibility in me anymore. That I don't know how. Maybe is there a fucking smart contract I could do this? Put in some reputation or something.
Maybe.
in any case, you will never see an ad being supported, being put in here by myself or Juan. Well, I don't know.
And it's different. Like I think I'd be okay with sponsorship.
Yeah. Okay. See, even sponsorship for me is
I'm saying sponsorship along the lines of let's say that someone donated 1 million satoshis, and they were like, "We're sending you a shirt. We would enjoy if you could wear it." I think I would do that. That's like okay, you've sent that through. That's kind of like
that's a request. That's not a contractual.
Okay, a request. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. Look, we might get you never know. What if we contractually get onto Spotify? Well, no, actually, we wouldn't do that. What if we contractually get on with, someone out there like a big Bitcoin
Fountain
group or something? Fountain. Let's say Fountain were like, hey, we want to.
You need to mention us once a show.
Yeah, once a show.
I wouldn't be okay with that.
I wouldn't be okay with that either. I wouldn't be okay with doing it contractual. I'd be like, we talk about it already because it's a good product.
Yeah.
We're not talking about it for any other reason.
And that's why I mean value for value. So getting onto the eventual point I'm trying to make, which is the value for value system is what we run here. So we provide value up front. This is upfront cost on our part.
Yep.
And I argue it always has to be. You can't be doing your ask before you've provided any value. And I think this is just a law of the universe. It just doesn't work that way. So we spent a lot of time creating this podcast. So there's all the equipment, getting together. Juan's moved out now, so he's driven here purposefully on a Wednesday evening to get here. Very much appreciated, Juan. And we do all of this and we release it, and we really hope you enjoy it. And your value that you get from it, we just ask you return that in whatever way you see fit. So we always talk about Boostagrams because we like them very much. This is a great tool for us to know what you find interesting, where we can take the direction of the podcast, topics, things like that. And it's content for us to react to. So it is fun hearing your name just get mentioned out and whatnot. But also you can share it. You can, if you have a talent of some sort, if you have read the studies in steroids and know that you can actually do this or they're wrong on this point, send us a message. Not even just a Boostagram, but just a normal message letting us know, hey, by the way, check out this thing. All of that is extremely valuable. And and the reason we do the value for value is because we don't want to be influenced by having to shill a product or not saying, I don't know, like let's just say we're pro steroids, and so all the things we talked about with steroids was only in the good factor, and let's like negative aspects.
Bring in some.
We actually didn't talk about negative aspects.
Bring it back to the meandering conversation that we had around when things get to deep fakes and things like that.
Yeah. I guess, so that's getting released on Sunday.
Exactly. So that one that comes out, more again, it's like how can you, and this happens across the value for value chain, but at least for the Mere Mortals podcast, I guess what we're providing to you is unfiltered or it's biased only through us as mere mortals, not by other,
which is pretty bad.
Which is pretty bad. But it's not coming through from there's no sponsorship saying
honestly,
like you've got to talk about
as
this.
bad as I am after listening to you talk about, I assume that was Accenture, the just fucking shenanigans and chicanery going on in the eternal politicking.
Dude.
Whatever the fuck is going on there, none of that is touching this podcast.
Exactly.
I can tell you that.
Yeah. And one thing I always thought in my mind was if I ever run a large company and the like, and I like to ask this question to founders and people who are CEOs and with larger companies. Yeah. And I would like to dive into it, but it's how does your structure actually work? Because it is you do have to have some sort of hierarchy structure.
Can't be chaos.
You can have holacracies, but again, you still need to have some level of management, some leadership in there. But please, for the love of God, just don't have it with such ridiculous levels of energy wastage that you can really have. There's much better ways to provide meritocracy in your businesses. So, anyways, we'll leave it at that. Mere Mortalites, hope you enjoyed for the musings today. The live session.
Nice.
That has been regret. Do I regret going for an hour? Not really.
Hour and 15 minutes.
Hour and 15 minutes. Damn.
Add on 10 minutes for the start as well.
Woo.
So almost
big long session. All right, folks, that's it for now. One out.
Going out.
Good.
Sure.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Good. All right. See ya, P.
Yeah, thanks, P, for joining in. How many others did we have? It's hard to tell. We had 3 people at one point. Whoa. Actually, no. 3 people at the max. No, 4 people it says. Damn.
Damn.
I'll be in the Discord as usual. Oh, got a couple of things in here. Did I miss them? No. Oh, it was from Moritz. Oh yeah, cool. He wants to organize a chat this week. I can definitely do that. If you feel like hanging around for a bit and chatting with me directly, and I'll be able to respond to comments and whatnot, I'll be in the Discord. So link is in every single episode. There's a link to our Discord so join in on that. Juan's gonna head off.
I am indeed.
Back to I don't even where are you living now?
Man, everywhere and nowhere. I actually had this question come up to me the other day. 'Cause I went to a different gym, and they asked me, they were like, "Oh, are you living nearby here?" And I was like, "Yes, but kind of like no." And they were like, "Oh, well, is it on your way from work?" And I was like, "Not really." And sometimes the conversation actually went to a bank. I won't say which bank, but I went to a bank to do some stuff, and they like looked into the details in the back end, and they're like, "Are you still living in Fortitude Valley?" And I was like, "No."
Nah,
and they're like, "Oh, we've still been sending you mail there like this whole time." And I'm like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
God damn, it's like
Well,
4 years plus that I haven't been living there. I'm like,
yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, why are you sending mail? Is the first point, and then
actually, this is an interesting one, and we'll just talk about it on the podcast because is it still live?
yeah.
This will be interesting. I won't say anything unless you feel free to say anything about it. What Bitcoin did, they were talking about the Lightning Network and how there were certain payments and transactions that he was doing. I can't remember what the guy's name is.
Peter McCormack
Was talking about like some of the transactions, and then he was talking to. I want to make sure I bring it up. You know that lady that's always on there.
Lynn Alden.
Yep. So they were talking about like Lightning Networks and how there's a taxational event that happens every time like you actually pay with Lightning Network. And so she was saying like, oh yeah, so you have to make sure you tabulate and he was like, no, I'm not doing it. He's like, I am, and like on the podcast he was like, I am not doing this. And she was like, oh look, you probably don't want to say that. Like, and he's like, nah, I don't care. Like he was like, I would rather get paid the fine. I'm not doing it to the taxation. I was like. Damn, you just called it out. I was like, dude, that's the taxman's listening. So I literally was like, oh man, that is great.
Shit, that's not for someone of his level. That's nice.
I was like, dude, that was.
But I mean, like he's. I mean, one of the reasons people enjoy him is he's kind of loose. He shoots from the hip as well. So
yeah, I wish I could like find it easily enough for you, but it's like
right.
Things are not like easy to search. But yeah, it's if you want to see it, it's why Bitcoin is the best monetary network with Lynn Alden, WBD 549.
How long ago was this?
3rd of September.
Okay, so like recent.
Yeah, it's really recent. So listen to that. Like if you actually just want to understand his point on the Lightning Network.
I think it's probably because he won that court case against that Craig Wright was trying to sue him for. Sure. So maybe he thinks he's untouchable now. Maybe,
that was wild. That was actually a good podcast. Like they talked a lot about the Lightning Network, and Lynn just seems to know freaking everything about everything, dude. And the way that she was talking about just the, I never really understood, I guess, really how MasterCard and Visa actually worked in the terms of how transactions are tabulated and actually validated when the money goes around. So it's kind of like, when you pay with MasterCard and Visa, they're not actually doing any money summations or conglomerations or anything.
Once a day maybe that they'll
no they don't even do it. They don't do it. So they just they're like their technology on a ledger seems familiar. So they're basically just the technology that allows a lot of that conversation to happen across different banks. But then they go to other aggregators, and some of the ones I mentioned is like there's like government aggregators basically and other private companies that aggregate those into smaller transaction bundles. So it's not like millions of transactions a day, it's a couple of thousand a day, but they can be gigantic ones. Yeah. And then those at whatever intervals of daily or every couple of hours or whatever will settle them. So you might have like Lynn said like $100 trillion being settled, on a day. And then that'll come out as like, okay, that bank gets this much money, this bank gets this much money, this blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. So, but I was like, interesting that MasterCard and Visa actually don't do any of that. So they're just the technology. They're not anything to do with the settlement at all. So when the cuts of the percentages are getting done, it's like card goes to MasterCard and Visa, then to the aggregator level, which is one of the government-owned ones or whatever it may be. Then the bank has one. So it's like those layers of intermediaries.
From the very meager I know of the financial system and the actual tech behind it, it all sounds like it's from the 70s, and like the Swift system and things like that.
Yeah.
They, from what I've heard, they just use really badly
a lot of the banking systems are built upon like
they're just
really
so old
technology.
They're just so old, and trying to modernize it would be ridiculous.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Anyways, folks, thank you very much.
All right, ciao,
Ciao,
people.
ciao.